The Sportscast, September 24th, 2020. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, Periscope, iTunes, and YouTube. And if you're in iTunes, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. And visit us on thesportscast.net, thesportscast.net, and on Twitter at thesportscast1. This episode is brought to you by Insta Bible app. You can get the Insta Bible app on the iOS App Store. It's SEC week this week at the Sportscast. Throughout this week, we've had SEC players on previewing Bama and their roster with Stephen N. Smith. And tonight, we are previewing the SEC as a whole, what I like to call the greatest college conference in the world. And we got Matt Caddell all the way from Georgia. Welcome back to the Sportscast.
Glad to be back, man. It's SEC week. We got the real boys playing football. Let's get it started.
That is right. It is the real boys. It's something that I definitely was definitely pondering for this week. We at the Sportscast, we had a special few articles that were going on. And then, of course, we had Marvin and Justin with a whole crew with a whole lot of different guests. Chris Samuels was there, Jarrell Johnson, and Evan Smith. So
awesome!
Quite a week when it comes to SEC, and of course, we'll just top it off with Matt Caddell.
Yeah, say the best for the last,
Say the best for the last. Okay. Should we go SEC East first? Evan Mathis, that's his name. I got a correction. Evan Mathis. You remember him?
Yeah, Evan Mathis is great. Yeah, played with him. Great guy.
Oh, my gosh. You guys are teammates.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was producing that show on Tuesday night. He's a very focused man. Very quiet, but focused.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man. Evan. He's a big-time wrestler coming out of high school. I think he played at Homewood and had a long NFL career as well. So
yeah, he played for the Eagles. I think he really stuck with the Eagles because he played with like 4 different teams.
Yeah, the Eagles, I think he had his best success there.
Yeah, he played for the Dolphins for a season, but, when you're at the Eagles for like 4 years, you're probably going to be homegrown and probably root for Wentz. So,
yeah, hopefully Wentz steps his game back up. I know the Philly fans are really upset right now. They take their football very serious. So,
yeah,
hopefully they get it turned around.
And Jalen Hurts is, which he's actually QB2. I mean, do you think he'll be starting soon?
I don't know. They'll probably. I know he played some Sunday. They put him in a package in the backfield. So. I know the Philly fans are calling for him as well as Dolphin fans are calling for Tua. I know they play tonight.
Which I'm saying, look, which I told Stephen Smith yesterday, and he agreed with me. Hey, save Tua till December.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to be able to. It's just they keep on losing games. It's going to be kind of hard. You might as well if you're going to lose, you might as well play your future franchise quarterback, see what you got. So I know they got some tough games coming up, but then they got after the Jaguars tonight, they got Seattle and I forgot who they played. I think it's some tough games, so I think they're going to probably bring Tua in later in the season with, a softer opponent, and just kind of build them up from there. That's just my guess. So.
Absolutely. We'll definitely keep in track of Bama players in the NFL. So far, so good for most of them. Josh Jacobs is doing well. But we'll cover NFL and Alabama players in a later show because we're going to cover the SEC, and there's 2 parts of the SEC, the East and the West. Let's go with the East.
Let's do it.
Florida Gators, Dan Mullen, Kyle Trask. Matt, how do you see this team ending or finishing this season with the SEC?
I got them winning the SEC East. As you mentioned, Dan Mullen, Kyle Trask. I think they return a lot of players, offensively, defensively. They're just a good team. They have a lot of continuity. Dan Mullen, he's a great play caller. They got a good defense, a lot of speed down there. I just think, with Newman not coming opting out for Georgia. I think this is the year for, Florida to make some noise in the East. And I got them to pick to be my SEC East champion. Sorry about that. And I just think they're going to be really good this year. I think Kyle Trask is probably leading in passing, possibly in the SEC, and get Florida to the SEC East title.
You're the third guy within the Sportscast that have said Florida will win it, so you're not the only one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm high on them. I was high on them before the year. I just thought they had, a lot more coming back, and I think, they finished in the Orange Bowl last year, and I think that's very. They're gonna have so much continuity, but coming back, I think they're gonna do well.
I was more like Florida has like a year away from being good, but I guess it might be a year earlier than I thought.
Yeah, I mean Georgia still has probably the best talent on the roster, but I mean I just don't know. I know they're trying to install a new offense. They got a tougher schedule. Florida has an easier SEC schedule this year, 10-game schedule, so they probably have the easiest path to the SEC championship. So that's why I'm giving Florida the nod. With the whole quarterback situation, I think Kyle Trask, Dan Mullen, year two of them just being, calling plays, knowing their strengths. I think Florida's going to be my SEC East team.
And their tight end is a first-round draft pick.
Yeah, Copeland's the real deal. He's really good. You can't beat that guy. I mean, he was a matchup. He's kind of like a receiver. They have so many weapons, so it's going to be very important to get that offense going. I think Dan Mullen is going to utilize his whole offense to really, get things going for the Gators this year.
Let's talk about Georgia. Of course, Matt has spoke a little bit about them. There might be the one or two team in the SEC East. Of course, Georgia has the top two recruiting team in the nation. They've definitely been beating out Alabama by an inch or two. Quarterback is Justin Fields. Coach is Kirby Smart. How do you see this team, Matt? Do you think they're capable of maybe, squeezing Florida out, or do you think they're kind of like one step behind?
I think they're more than capable. I mean, you look at their roster, Kirby's been doing a great job recruiting, building depth and talent. I just think, this is going to come down to that Florida-Georgia game. Luckily, it's not in Jacksonville this year, and I think it's actually in Athens. So that's going to be a very competitive game. And, if they can win that game, obviously they'll be ahead and leading the SEC East. But I just think it's going to come down, Kirby, like I mentioned earlier, they're trying to install a new offense, more spread-type offense. Obviously trying to, develop the game even more. But I think that Jamie Newman was a huge loss for them. Defensively, Kirby's going to have those guys playing. They're going to be one of the top defenses, obviously, in the country. And I just think, it's a lot going on in Athens. So I just think right now they're going to be competitive, but they're going to be, if Florida doesn't win it, I definitely have Georgia win. They'll probably go with either Mathis or JT Daniels, but I don't think JT Daniels is medical cleared yet. So they have a great receiver in Perkins. They have some running backs back there. Offensive line's usually good. So, it's just a matter of what kind of offense they're going to try to run. And, they got a tough one this week with Arkansas. Well, not a tough one, but it's a road game at Arkansas. And I did not know Felipe Franks was the starting quarterback at Arkansas. I didn't even know he was still in college football.
Wow, so, me either. That's news to me right now.
Yeah, I was like, Felipe Franks? Oh, my God.
Hey, Arkansas has a chance maybe, I guess. I don't know who's their wide receivers, but.
Yeah, I don't know. Georgia probably win, but
yeah,
I was just shocked.
And Matt mentioned Jamie Newman. He opted out due to coronavirus concerns. So that is,
yes.
He is a transfer from Wake Forest and a great, quarterback. He's a quarterback.
Yes.
So he obviously is opted out. Okay, let's go to the next team that people talk about a little bit. Is Kentucky. They got a new quarterback. What are your thoughts over Kentucky?
I got Kentucky being one of the most underrated teams in the SEC overall, especially the SEC East. They're gonna. I've heard some. I know they got Auburn this weekend and Jordan Hare, and a lot of people picking Auburn. I know it's only a 10-point spread, but Kentucky, I wouldn't be surprised if they get some things going. I know the NCAA cleared Joey Gatewood, the former, four-star quarterback from Auburn, but I think they're waiting on the SEC's actual approval. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. But yeah, Kentucky, Mike Stoops has done a great job. I think they got one of the top offensive lines in the country. I think their tackle is probably Pro Football Focus top lineman. They got a really good secondary. Mike Stoops has got a lot of guys. They just are very hungry, really make some noise in the SEC. They're kind of a split. But they're kind of number two picks. I think. They have back at quarterback. They finished 8-5 last year. So I think they'll be a lot much better improved. And if I was Auburn, I'd be kind of on the lookout, really focus on Kentucky. They are a super team in the East.
Yeah, I think half the crew, or more than half the crew from Tuesday's show, was picking Kentucky. Of course, they hate Auburn. So
Yeah.
I don't know if Kentucky has somewhat of a chance. Of course, the spread is 10 points.
Yeah, that means Vegas sees the same thing as well. I think everybody's seeing that's one game you're going to have to be prepared for it. And, always in the SEC, you're going to have to bring your A game week in and week out. But it's going to be interesting. I think Auburn eventually gets a win, but the game might be closer than expected. And I wouldn't be surprised, if Kentucky actually win this game. But I think it's going to be a tall task, and I think at the end of the day, Auburn probably get the win. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if this one an upset. So
let's look on to Missouri. They got a new coach, Elijah Drinkwitz. How do you see this Missouri team? Of course, they'll be facing Alabama this weekend, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, they got Bama. I think 6:00 on Saturday. Drinkwitz, the coach, is from App State, so they're a powerhouse in that division. They've upset some Power 5 schools, so they're going to be focused. I think he's going to, change the culture down there. And, Missouri, I think he's a disciple of Gus Malzahn, so I think that's going to be a good test for our defense. We have some young guys, in the secondary, and I think that's going to help Alabama's, get familiar to that, that spread early. Hopefully get a win on the road. But Missouri, they have a really good team. They really have pretty good defense. They have some, some guys that, they just play with effort on the defensive end. So I know they're missing like 12 guys for the opener, but I think they're going to be competitive. But I still think they're like 2 or 3 years away from really making some noise in the East.
Something to definitely look at. Of course, that game with Alabama is a 7 p.m. Eastern game. So a lot of our show listeners will be looking at that game and see where does Alabama stand, because that'd be a good game to know where Alabama's at.
Yes,
for sure.
I think it is. And, I think my thoughts is that Alabama is important for them to get a good road win in the SEC to really kind of set the tone for the season. Because they have such competition with this 10-game SEC schedule, and I think going to have to get some tough road wins. So I think this would be a good game for the team to really get some identity and really establish their dominance in the SEC, especially on the road. So Missouri is going to be. I know they're going to be missing some players, but quite sure they're going to be very prepared to bring on. Everybody brings their A game versus Alabama, so. It's going to be interesting in Missouri, in Columbia, Missouri this weekend.
And I want to remind the audience that the SEC teams will be playing SEC only. So 10 SEC teams, games for each team in the SEC has never been done before. So everyone's looking at this conference specifically because the other conferences, they're good, but this is great. This is like every week it's going to be exciting. Yes, there's no easy games like Citadel. None of that. No, every game will be tough.
Yeah. Wink, wink, ACC Clemson. Clemson Citadel. Like, really? Come on now.
I know. It's funny because we had another commentator for the sportscast, Turner, and he said, yeah, I mean, Clemson just has to win one big non-conference game, and they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, they got the easiest road. But they're gonna if they lose, it's gonna be kind of tough because with the Big Ten playing, the Big Ten's very competitive. Maybe a Wisconsin or
well, they say that at
Michigan,
Ohio State is by far the best team there. They say. I don't know.
Yeah, so it depends. It depends on how everybody. Last year the Big Ten and the SEC had the two toughest conferences, so it's going to be interesting to see how the ACC pans out. But I will say North Carolina's going to be a tough opponent, and I think Miami. I don't want to say the U is back how it was in the glory days, but they're just trending in the right direction.
There's someone competitive this year.
Yeah, they're way more competitive. Yeah, so that's going to be a challenging game. So,
yeah, Miami. I'm looking forward to it because I thought there was some doubts with Manny Diaz, but I think the doubts have been quieting. So we'll see what Miami does. Maybe Miami will be that second force in the ACC. It's just what they need. Let's go into the South Carolina Gamecocks. Head coach Will Munchamp, 5th year as coach. They were 4-8 last year overall and 3-5 in the SEC. I've been hearing good things about Carolina. What have you been hearing?
Will Muschamp does a great job, in recruiting and having defensive plan, focus and discipline. And I know they played Alabama tough last year, and I know they beat Georgia at Georgia last year. It was probably their biggest win. So I think their focus. I know they started a new quarterback this year.
Colin Hill, yes. He was named the quarterback about a week or 2 weeks ago. It was a surprise, a huge surprise, but everyone seems like pretty intrigued to see this guy play. Yeah,
and I think the secondary is going to be pretty well. I think that's probably one of their strongest points on the defensive end. They got some guys that are like 6'2", 6'3" at the corner position. They fly around. They play hard-nosed defense. So they open up with Tennessee, which is going to be an interesting game.
That should be a good matchup. Should it be even? Kind of even balance-ish?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably give the slight edge to Tennessee.
Yeah.
But that game's going to be tough. I think Tennessee is the spread is 3 points right now, so
okay, that's close. Closer than Alabama and Missouri.
Matchups. Yeah, that's going to be whoever obviously wins this game is helping themselves get in the driver's seat in the SEC East. But they're playing. Tennessee is playing at South Carolina. I know that can be kind of challenging, and that's going to be a great matchup. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing that. I think that's a 7:30 Eastern Standard Time
during the Alabama game. But I doubt you'd be watching that one.
Yeah, oh no, I would not.
Unless you're flipping back and forth.
But my focus would definitely be on the Tide. I'll be all glued in.
Let me know if you do that. I'm really curious if you will flip to that game.
Nah, I'll probably. I don't know. It's going to be maybe commercial. I'll flip over.
If you remember, or you see a highlight. Okay, the game looks pretty tight on that other channel. Let me check it out.
Yeah, I'm be glued 24/7 all into the Alabama game.
And the reason why we brought up Colin Hill, he is a grad transfer from Colorado State. I never saw him play in Colorado State. Have you heard anything when he played there?
No, the only thing I've heard is that he's going to be obviously the quarterback. He won the job this year, so it's going to be interesting. And, with Muschamp, I believe he's 7-1 all-time against the ball, so it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be one of those games to really see who's going to really, take the lead in the SEC, kind of put themselves in the forefront in the SEC East. So,
we'll see what happens. The Sportscast interns are South Carolina fans, so we'll definitely have them.
Oh wow!
I don't think they'll be covering the game. I think Justin will be live tweeting the Alabama game, which he should because we have a huge following from Alabama and our Sportscast Twitter. So definitely, we'll definitely keep you guys up to date. This Saturday it's going to be a busy weekend. We got NFL, SEC starting this weekend, and of course the NFL on Sunday. So it should be exciting. Okay, back to Tennessee. Going into Tennessee, which we touch on a little bit. Head coach is Jeremy Pruitt. Last year they were 8-5. Some people have been saying the sparks of the old Tennessee might be coming back. But Matt, what do you think about Tennessee this year?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Jeremy Pruitt. I think he's a really good head coach in the program. The culture he's kind of changed there so early at Tennessee, and I think it's going to be great. I think he's on the cusp of getting them back to really, controlling the SEC East like they used to back in the Peyton Manning days, um, things like that. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I think they have the spread is 3 points, and it's going to be a challenging game. Having to go to Columbia. I think for Tennessee, they have everything else. Maybe they might not have the receivers, but they, typically have, the defense. The defense plays really well with Derek Ansley. Obviously, I forgot who they started as their quarterback, but I think it might be Garantano. But they just play really good football, disciplined football, and they usually have a really good running back.
It is Jared
Line is
Quarantano.
really
Yes,
set.
yes, he'll be the
Yes,
starting quarterback. Correct.
yeah. So it'll be important for him to play good games and not get frustrated because I think I saw the ball game when he plays well. They tend to do well offensively in the defense with Henry Tutu. I know Alabama really want him at the middle linebacker. They have a lot of guys that play downhill fast, looking to stop the run. So Tennessee is actually one of my sleepers, actually to win the East. So it's going to
Interesting.
be
So they're
interesting.
in your top three in the SEC East.
Yes, I have Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Yes.
Quite interesting. Yeah, Tennessee is definitely a team that is a very traditional team in the SEC. Has had their glory days in the past, and hopefully could bring that back and maybe become a potential rivalry again with Alabama.
Yeah. I mean, I think the SEC, traditionally, the SEC is always competitive when you have Tennessee really dominating the East or Florida. So it really helps the SEC and the SEC East to make it such a strong conference. And so it's always good to have one of those, your bigger conferences, bigger schools in the SEC East to be competitive. So,
Let's go.
yeah, I think Dan Tano's going to be the X factor for them.
You think
Sorry about
so?
that, yeah. Yeah, I think it's all on him. If he plays well, the better they'll be. If he doesn't, then, it's going to be a long season.
Some people might say Vanderbilt might be the worst team in the SEC East. They were 3-9 last year, 1-7. Coach is Derek Mason. What are your quick thoughts over Vanderbilt?
Well, Vanderbilt, I think they have like 7 players opt out. I mean, it's hate to say it, but they probably were like, yeah, I don't want to get beat up in the SEC. But I believe they named true freshman Keaton Seals as a starting quarterback. I think that's going to give them a lot of upside offensively. With Vanderbilt, I think if they can keep games close, and kind of have a fighting chance, then they can kind of keep them in games and be a little bit more competitive. But, they have an uphill battle playing at number 10, Texas A&M this Saturday. So that's probably going to be a tough one. I know they had a linebacker, Colin Anderson, in at the transfer portal. So it's going to be pretty interesting. So, Vanderbilt, it's Vandy for you. They're all about academics over there. So, and baseball's their thing. So they might get beat up during the football season, but come baseball season, they get all their revenge back.
And they're the closest thing to see to like a Citadel.
Yeah, or Duke, something like that. So yeah.
Or Mercer. These schools that Alabama plays right before Auburn for the Iron Bowl. They need to have a nice, easy game and hopefully get no injuries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's go to the heaviest side of the SEC. We call the SEC West. Of course, that's debatable. Let's start with Alabama. Of course, Mac Jones is a starting quarterback. We got 2 Heisman candidates, as in Smith and Waddle in the wide receiving range. Matt, how do you see this team from Tuesday? A lot of these players said that this might be the best team in a while. But what are your thoughts over this Bama team?
Well, I just want them to prove that it's one of the best teams. I think they kind of, reestablished their swagger, the way they finished the season against Michigan. Matt Jones got a lot of experience last year with Tua being down. He played actually pretty well against Auburn going against one of the top defenses in the SEC. They had two defensive linemen go in the first round, I believe. So, it was a challenging game, but, if you take away those turnovers, actually Alabama probably wins that game. So, but I got a lot of confidence in Mac Jones, I believe, with the addition of Bryce Young. That's going to help push him. As you mentioned earlier, we have two Heisman candidates, Najee Harris, so I think it's going to be obviously a Doak Walker finalist. Wouldn't be surprised if he wins it. A Heisman Trophy finalist, wouldn't be surprised about that. And Jalen Waddle, he can do just about everything on the offensive end, special teams end. He's a secret weapon for Alabama in the special teams, so he can be an X factor for us. Obviously, Devontae Smith at the receiver position. One of the top SEC receivers coming back. Could have left last year. Probably got drafted late first round, but decided to come back, graduate and, really focus on winning the championship. So Alabama has a stable of running backs. I think one of their strengths offensively, obviously, is the offensive line led by, Edmund Neal, Landon Dickerson, Brown, Alex Leatherwood, all those guys. I think they're going to be essential in Alabama's road to the SEC title and to the college football playoff. So they have a lot of depth there, have a lot of depth at the running back position. Receivers have some depth, but you're going to get a lot of young guys in sometimes. I know John Mechie, probably the third guy, Slade Bolden, Javon Baker, those guys probably get into rotation. So have a lot of strength at the tight end position, Miller Forrestall, Major Tennyson, Jaleel Billingsley, Carl Tucker, those guys. So on the defensive end, that's where, most Alabama fans want to see the improvement. It hasn't been past couple of years, the Alabama defense that, Alabama fans
especially last year.
So dominant. Yeah, especially last year had a lot of young guys, but, you have those guys coming back,
Dylan Moses, I hear.
Dylan Moses being back, he was All-American, probably a top draft pick. He had an unfortunate injury, but I think he's going to, be that key piece of, really set the tone, really get those guys lined up on the defensive front, have a lot of depth, defensive line, DJ Dell, Christian Barmore, those guys, have some freshmen coming off the edge. Will Anderson, I believe he's a pass rush specialist from what I'm hearing. I think the big leader in the secondary, obviously, is Patrick Surtain. He's one of the top draft picks next year. And I think he's going to solidify that corner position and really help, be that leader in the secondary and to bring along those other guys in the position. So I know we need to establish some depth there as well, and I think we will in these first couple of games. So special teams is always the big issue with Alabama fans, kickers.
I know, man. This past 2-3 seasons, maybe more, it feels like it just comes down to the kicker.
Yeah, so I know last year Will Riker was injured, so he's back. So I know a lot of Alabama, he was a standout coming out of Hoover. So I think, him being healthy, that's going to help us at the kickers. And I think, obviously the punters will do a solid job out there. And like I said, Jalen Waddle back there, punt returns, he can change the game just that fast. So, I think with this team, with this leadership, with the coaching staff, Coach Saban's assembled in the offseason, or the continuity he has back with Sarkisian on the offense, I think they know what to do and how to get things executed to dominate and win the SEC.
Also, a few names we got to mention that are also NFL draft prospects from Alabama. Josh McMillan, and LeBron Ray, all returned from injury as well.
Yes, LeBron Ray is going to be a force at the defensive end position. And, Josh McMillan, he'll definitely be in the rotation. He just gives us much more leadership, added depth on the defensive end at the linebacker position.
And also keep in mind, guys, I think the kicker that's coming back from injury, he was like the number one recruit when it comes to kicking. Is that what I've heard? Is that true?
Yeah, I believe so. Number one or number two in the country. So, yeah.
Man, this should be enough. Please.
Please, Lord. I know I've been praying a lot. That's probably the most times when Alabama has a line up for a field goal kick, most Alabama fans are like praying or like either hoping for the worst. So we got to try to change that. And I think Will Riker will give us confidence and be successful. You don't have to be 100%. We just want you to get,
hey,
75%.
If you're 5 yards off, you should make those.
Yeah. So hopefully we get it right. But I'm confident. I believe
the
team is confident.
But obviously, the Iron Bowl will not be played in Auburn this year. It will be in Alabama. So if they go to another big stadium like LSU or something like that, there's most likely not be any fans. So like the pressure is a little bit less, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it'll be most fans are. It's going to be like 20%. So you're still going to have some fans. Everybody's going to be piping in crowd noise. So
yeah,
I mean, I've been watching any of these NFL games, and I'm like, I'm not even noticing the fans, to be honest.
me either.
Yeah, I think I noticed it in the Cowboys-Falcons game. I believe, obviously, that really helped the Cowboys.
Yeah, they had
finish that
about
game.
25,000-30,000 fans at Cowboy Stadium, which is
Yeah. So I think, as the season goes on, probably stadium attendance is going to increase, but, that's all local guidelines and state guidelines. So that varies in different locations. So, Death Valley's still going to be tough, having to win down to LSU. That's always a tough road game. But Alabama historically has played well down there. So
yeah, Death Valley. There's a reason why they call it Death Valley.
Yeah. They're the real Death Valley. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting.
It should be exciting.
Yeah.
And what's not exciting is the Arkansas Razorbacks, another team that is as bad as Vanderbilt. They were 0-8 last season with the ACC, 2-10 overall. I'm not sure who was that 2 they beat.
Yeah.
Their head coach is Sam Pittman, first year. Maybe he'll turn things around. Matt, what have you heard about Arkansas this season?
I haven't heard much. As you mentioned, Sam Pittman is the new head coach. He was at Georgia. Funny they opened up against Georgia, so I know he's going to be trying to prove a point. Obviously, Felipe Franks is named the starter for Arkansas, so I think that gives them some experience. But they have some depth, and they're trying to get things started, focus around. I think they have to recruit more, things like that. But Arkansas they're pretty tough, so it'll be interesting to see. They have linebacker Tate Crowder, those type players. So I think they're going to be pretty well.
You think they'll get a win, or you think this is not the year to get a win?
They'll probably get a win. You never know. SEC
against Vanderbilt.
You never know. Yeah, maybe against Vanderbilt. But I think having Felipe Franks, that really gives them some.
Yeah, some edge.
That really gives them.
Yeah, I want to remind the audience that he played for Florida about 2 years ago, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
So
and he was pretty good, and so
yeah, he was a big prospect.
Yeah, so it really gives. I think having quarterback experience really gives you an edge. So I won't be surprised if they win maybe one game or two. So it's going to be interesting.
Something to definitely look at. Let's look at Almighty Auburn, the biggest rival of Alabama football, bigger than Tennessee. It used to be Tennessee, now it's Auburn. Let's look at the quarterback Bo Nix. Will be his second year in Auburn. What are your thoughts over Auburn? Of course, they're ranked number 8 in the AP college football polls, which is looking good for them. Will they be a force for the SEC West? Maybe be that 2 or 1B team. Obviously, LSU is going through a reconstruction year. But what are your thoughts over Auburn?
Yeah, I think Auburn is going to be one of the pushing for the SEC West. I got them picked number 2 in the SEC West. I just think they have. You mentioned Bo Nix. He's returning. He had a pretty solid year as a freshman quarterback. Won some big games, obviously. And I just think, they're returning him. The big issue for Auburn is, can they get the running game, get a running back? Auburn usually has success when they have a running back effective that can, really move the ball. And it really makes their offense with Gus Malzahn mixing up plays. They have solid receivers at the receiver position. I think number 18, Seth Williams, is pretty solid. And number 5, I think he's a speedster for them. So offensive line, I think they return a few guys. So I think they're going to be pretty good offensively. Obviously, Gus Malzahn with him in the play calling, they're going to be very competitive. They're going to put up points. So the key is to stop them. I think defensively, they lost a lot at the defensive front with Brown and Davison. So they're going to have to replace those guys. So I think linebackers, they have a lot of guys that fly around, hit hard, very downhill. I know they lost some guys in the secondary. I think Cameron Steele does a really good job of, having disciplined, solid defense for the Auburn Tigers. And overall, they always have good special teams, kickers, especially. So I think overall Auburn's going to be a tough team this year. They're number 8 ranked in the SEC, and I think they're going to do well. I got them picked finishing second in the SEC West, obviously behind Alabama. So it's always a tough team. They always come prepared, and they got a lot of returning players coming back this year. So I think they're going to be pretty competitive this year.
And Auburn will be starting a freshman running back. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think he's pretty good.
KJ Britt, that's his name. No, sorry, he's a linebacker. No, I don't know his name, but the running back. But I'm getting reports it's a freshman. Let me look him up. Let me look him up because these
they had a big time recruit running back.
DJ Williams.
He's out of 4.
DJ Williams. Yeah. That's what have you heard about him?
Well, I know he's a big time running back. I know at one point Alabama was recruiting him.
Interesting.
Some of the top SEC schools in the SEC. So he's a pretty solid running back. I think he's going to do great for them. Kind of give them that edge what they need offensively in the running back field.
His nickname is the Tank. Can you believe that?
Oh, wow. Awesome. That's pretty cool.
That's good for him. So, also about Gus Malzahn, of course, last season, even like the year prior, there was rumors of him just sacking him. Do you think he needs to prove something this year for the Auburn fans, or what are your thoughts over his job security at Auburn?
I just think for him, obviously the big thing for him is to win the big games, obviously to beat Alabama, and so he did that last year, so he's probably good. They'll probably give him an extension or something like that.
The usual.
Then, the usual, and then maybe, they might not be as competitive in games, and then Auburn fans will be wanting to fire him, so it's like a love-hate relationship. But, I just think for Gus, he just needs to win the games he's supposed to win and win some of those games or those bigger SEC schools like your LSUs, your Alabamas, those type games, your Georgias, those type wins.
Yeah, something to definitely look at. Auburn is always that third or second best team in the SEC West. Usually it's Alabama number 1, and then LSU and Auburn are usually try to balance it out for that 2 spot in the SEC West standings. But it looks like Auburn might take that, in paper. It looks like they will, but we'll see if they do it in real life. Let's look at LSU. Head coach is Ed Orgeron. Of course, they're in the rebuilding. They lost a lot of players in the NFL draft. They lost their starting quarterback, Mr. Joe Burrow, which is doing well with the Bengals. Of course, LSU has a recruiting department, and they do have a pipeline of great talent coming in. But of course, the expectations are low. Matt, what are your expectations for LSU this year?
Oh my God, LSU being the number 3 team out there in the SEC West. You're going to have, I believe Miles Brennan's going to be their quarterback. They lost Joe Brady, offensive coordinator, I think passing game coordinator, but they still have Steve Emfinger, still really kind of, managing, calling the plays. But they had a lot of guys opt out this year. I think they had like maybe 6 or 8 guys opt out for the season. They lost Jamar Chase. But they still have a lot on the offensive end. I think they have a pretty stable back and in the backfield, pretty good offensive line. Like I said, Miles Brennan is going to get the nod. They have a lot of talent at the receiver position, even without Jamar Chase. So they're going to be competitive. But this year too, everybody's going to be focused to try to beat them this year because what they did last year. This is how it is. I just think defensively, they have a lot of guys coming back. It just starts for me with Stingley, the corner. I just think he's one of the best corners to really come to the SEC. He's a really good cover corner. He's just super athletic. So they're gonna be pretty good. So
they should not be overlooked, even though you're going to Death Valley.
Yeah, even though you're going to Death Valley, Derek Stingley, he's the real deal. Jacoby Stevens, I think he's all SEC first team defense. Like I mentioned, even without Jamar Chase, they still have Terrence Marshall on the all SEC team, and they return left guard Ed Ingram, and like you said earlier, they recruited pretty well, and so I know they recruited a highly coveted tight end, Eric Gilbert, is out of Georgia. So quite sure he's going to be eager to play. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I still think they're going to be competitive, but I still think give the nod to Alabama, then Auburn, then LSU.
Let's go on to Mississippi State. New head coach named Mike Leach. He used to coach for Washington State. Matt, how do you see this team panning out with a new coach named Mike Leach?
I think they're going to be pretty good, but just think of all the coaches that are in that state of Mississippi. You got Mike Leach at Mississippi State. Then you have Lane Kiffin. Now you got Deion Sanders at Jackson State. I'm like, this is just like all the characters that you probably can have.
Hey, Matt, the real estate's really cheap in Mississippi. I mean, that's a good reason to go.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. So, they got an interesting game against LSU actually this Saturday. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Mike Leach, really has the offense going. He's an offensive guy. He coached guys like Gardner Minshew, those type players. So it's going to be very interesting. This is going to be a tall task for their defense coordinator, Zach Arnett, to really kind of stop LSU this weekend. But, I think they're going to be a little bit more competitive than what they were in the past. So, they're probably going to be fifth in my book in the SEC, in the SEC West. But they're going to be competitive, and, for them, it's just going to be offense. Mike Leach is an incredible play caller for, offenses. He likes to spread it out. Kind of run and gun type deal. So they're going to be very competitive, and I just think it's going to be challenging for them to beat LSU. But they have them at home, so you never know what might happen in the SEC. It's 2020. Everything can be anything. Who would have thought we have, the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat? Miami you kind of knew, but not the Denver Nuggets actually competing for the NBA Finals. So
which we'll predict the Lakers tonight a little bit later on the show, so get ready for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so do you think this could be a winnable game for Mississippi State this weekend, or you don't think so? Like, what are your thoughts?
It possibly could be.
It looks winnable to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it easily could be winnable. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I think they got the quarterback from Stanford, Castillo. I think he's going to be the starter. So it's going to be pretty interesting for them. It's a winnable. I feel like in the SEC, it's winnable. And, Mississippi State typically has really good defenses. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this thing goes. So I'm excited. I'm just glad to see some ball. But I still think LSU gets the win.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think we'll definitely see how close the margin is. I want to see how close the win was. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I don't think.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I definitely want to see how their offense is going to look with Mike Leach at the helm. So it's going to be interesting.
Mike Leach coming from the Pacific Northwest to the SEC. Now let's go into Ole Miss. Another new hire, Lane Kiffin. Former Alabama assistant coach that was fired kind of spontaneously before the national championship game. Was coaching at FAU, did great. Of course, he's a character. He's a big time character when it comes to college football. Is there hope for Ole Miss now that Lane Kiffin's there?
Yes, there is. I think he kind of brings that kind of Houston Nut type energy back at Ole Miss. Not Houston Nut, but I forgot what's the Ole Miss coach said when they beat Alabama. But they kind of have that swagger, and I think
Freeze, Coach Freeze.
Yeah, Coach Hugh Freeze. Sorry.
Yes, because he's not coaching my alma mater, Liberty. So
Liberty,
yeah. So Freeze. I know that he had issues and with recruiting and did some, I guess, bribes. Is that like the right term? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. But,
Go ahead, Matt.
I think they're going to be competitive. They return sophomore Jerrion Ely at running back. Their quarterback,
Matt Caddell.
He can. Yeah, he can. I don't believe it's Matt Caddell. It's.
Let me look that up. Go ahead. I'll look it up.
Yeah, but I think they put up like maybe 20 or 30 points against Alabama last year. Now, credit Alabama defense wasn't the best last year,
Wow, that was a
but
big
I think
hole.
he gives them, with Lane, he's so special on the offensive end of, playing matchups and, really having an effective offense regarding the talent he might have. So they're going to be competitive. I think for them, I think they're still maybe a year or two out recruiting wise and depth. And as I mentioned earlier, having Mike Leach and Deion Sanders in step, this day is really not going to make things easier for him. But I think he can do the right thing and get the right guys in there for him. It's going to be interesting.
It is Matt Corral. It will not be John Plumlee. Matt Corral will be the starting quarterback for Ole Miss.
Oh, wow, Corral. That's interesting. I thought it'd be Plumlee, but that is interesting. But, yeah, Lane, like I said, he knows quarterbacks. He knows how to, change up things. But I'm quite sure Plumlee will be getting some playing time because he can kind of run and things like that. So I'm quite sure you'll see a lot of stuff from them, Florida. So I think Florida's going to have to be on their A game because you never know with Lane Kiffin them playing this Saturday. So it's going to be interesting, but I still think they lack the depth, possibly up front on the offensive and defensive line. But I think they're going to be way more competitive this year. So those are one teams you're going to have to be prepared to play just because Lane Kiffin brings so much offensive mindset and energy to his program. So
yeah, well, I've been hearing that Matt Corral is more of a Kiffin quarterback. So I guess probably fix his system. Kiffin, about him, is he a character or is he a real deal coach? Like, do you think this is his moment to play with the big boys? Like, what are your thoughts over him going to Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think it's his moment. I think it's, Kiffin is a character. He's an offensive genius. He knows how to, call plays. He knows how to put up points. And I think it was important for him to really learn from, the Coach Saban school of coaching and head coaching. So I think that really helped him. He went to FAU and turned that program around. So I think he's going to kind of bring out that. I think he's more mature now. I think he's going to kind of do that as well as Ole Miss. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm quite sure he's going to be competitive. He's going to be one of those coaches to really look out for in the SEC. I think he's had a good fit at Ole Miss. I think that's just a good fit for him.
Yeah, and of course on Tuesday they were saying, hey, as long as Lane Kiffin stays out of the bars, he should be fine.
Oh yeah, bars and I guess frat parties, one of the two. Yeah,
true.
He stays focused.
I've heard he's attended some frat parties.
Yeah, that's going to be kind of tough at Ole Miss. So.
If there's students on campus and in most SEC schools, like, what have you heard?
From about Lane Kiffin or just
having students on campus. Is there going to be students on campus this fall or?
Yeah, I'm quite sure. Alabama has students on campus. That.
Yeah, they're not gonna fret.
Not going. What's college not going to?
Bama Ramos is going to be open. They're going to have tailgate. The stadium will be half empty. That's for sure.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Anyways, let's go to the last one. We saved the best for last. Maybe for some people that might not be the case. Texas A&M head coach Jimbo Fisher, quarterback Kellen Mond. Last year they were 4-4 in the SEC, 8-5 overall. Texas A&M, big name, but they haven't made that spark. They haven't pushed to that third spot in the SEC West. What are your thoughts about this year, and are you optimistic, or we'll see more of the same?
I was more optimistic, before the season, but then they started having all these players opt out, and it was
top wide receiver
players the top wide receiver opted out.
There you go. There goes the season, Matt.
Yeah. I was like, if anybody could pull off of what LSU kind of did under the radar school in the SEC to kind of, make some noise in the SEC, I thought it would be Texas A&M before all those guys, opted out for the season. So it's going to be interesting. But Kellen Mond starts with Kellen Mond. He's an athletic quarterback, dual threat. He can do a lot. He gives him a chance offensively to move the ball just with his running ability. They have a really good tight end, Jalen Weidemeyer. Isaiah Spiller at the running back position is really good. So It's going to be pretty good. They have defensive lineman Bobby Brown. I know who Alabama wanted a couple of years ago, so it's going to be pretty good. So they typically have really good offensive tackles that go to the NFL. I know they have Carson Green and Dan Moore and a guard and Kenya Green. So they're going to be pretty good. So, like I mentioned, the big receiver, Jamal Osborne, opted out. So it's going to be pretty interesting. So I'm quite sure. But, I think you're going to kind of get more of the same from Texas A&M. Obviously competitive. Kellen Mond, seems like he's been there for forever. I just think they were fortunate with a lot of guys opting out, but I still think they're going to be very competitive. I have them pick fourth in the SEC West, behind Bama, Auburn, and LSU. So they might contend for that third spot. You never know how LSU is going to do. So
hey, Matt, that's a very optimistic comment right there.
Yeah. I still got them pick fourth in the SEC West, so.
Hey, it's not bad. Fourth, hey, is better than what they did last year. But, yeah, obviously – looking at the SEC West, and from my understanding and my research and listening to two other podcasts in the Sportscast, Alabama is number one in the SEC West, and then I have afterwards is Auburn. But Auburn could be as strong too, though. Like they could be breathing down Alabama's neck if something happens with Alabama.
Oh, yeah. It's always competitive like that. It was stuff like that last year.
It was.
Even, Auburn could have easily won that game and been number one in the SEC West, or Alabama could have easily won that game. So you just got to, take it week by week and control what you control, which is go out there and dominate and just focus on that. So
what that reminded me is like in code. I mean, because I'm a programmer, like one character of code can mess up your whole program. Same for football. One flaw can mess up your whole game. And also your whole season.
And nobody knows that better than Alabama. Obviously, if Tua doesn't fumble that first drive, they easily score. And if they don't, you never know how the game might change. It's so crazy. And they still almost came back and won the game. So,
it's funny.
Like you said, those little codes, those little mistakes can always change the way.
Little character. Which I say this every year. No matter what, the Iron Bulls are crazy. But I think they're crazier when they played in Auburn. I don't think Alabama, they're as crazy.
No, it's not as crazy. But it's going to be interesting this year because they return a pretty good team this year with the quarterback. So, it's always crazy year. You never know what can go happen at Jordan Hare. So, it's going to be interesting. That's why I love when we win down there. I think that's like.
Oh, I know. It is tough. It's not easy. This is not a walk. You got to it's battle. And what I love, especially last year, when you're watching the NFL commentators, they all talk about did you see that Iron Bowl game yesterday? I love it.
It's the top rivalry in college football. I know your Ohio State, Michigan fans always try to say, oh, it's the number one rivalry, but y'all are not even in state. I feel like if you have to live in state with each other, that's tough. So it's 24/7, 365, and that game is always interesting. Everybody tunes to it. Ends up being one of the top games of the year. So
yeah, which actually I have not told Matt this, or maybe he's heard. I actually lived in Birmingham for about a year and a half, so I know that rivalry. Football is God in Alabama. Auburn, you're an Auburn fan, you're an Alabama fan. It was crazy, but yeah, football is in a whole different dynamic, whole different level in Alabama itself.
Yeah, and I live in Georgia, and I'm like, y'all
that's
don't really
nothing.
Know college
Probably,
football. Obviously you have the Braves and the Hawks and the Falcons.
Oh, but
and
they're horrible.
You see a lot of Georgia fans are like, they try to push it's all about Georgia, but I'm like, y'all don't know, in the state of Alabama, it is 24/7, 365, Alabama, Auburn, every sport, every recruit. It's always a battle, so it's so intense.
Yeah, that's something that I've learned with interviewing you and other former Alabama players is the recruitment wars out there, and a lot of them said very similar teams. Auburn, it was between Alabama, it was between Auburn, Georgia Tech at one moment. LSU, Texas A&M. So and you were talking about it, there's certain players that played for other teams that were also under consideration from Alabama. So it's quite interesting how the Southeast is definitely the capital of college football, in my opinion. And of course, anywhere else in the country, it's just not the same. In the NFL, that's more, more like, up north or out like the West. So it's quite interesting, the whole dynamic when it comes to football, but pretty excited. So far, your SEC championship prediction would be Alabama versus Florida.
Yes.
And who
definitely?
And how? I mean, obviously, it's way out. The game will be played in December. How will that game look like to you?
Whew, man, I right now I got Alabama winning in a close one, but I mean, you never know by then. So I think regardless, the game is going to be close. It's going to be one of the more competitive SEC championships that we've seen in the past. LSU blew out Georgia last year. Alabama came back, beat Georgia year before that. So I think it's going to be back and forth game. So I think it's going to be really competitive. So right now I have Alabama with the giving the nod over Florida. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
And we got some breaking news. Pac-12 has voted to play.
This is hilarious.
But I don't know when. I have not received the news.
I just think they're going to be left out the playoff.
You think so?
Yeah, I think they're going to be too late to the party, to be honest.
I think so too, Matt. It's fragmented. Big Ten, I hope to make it in.
Big Ten, they're going to make it because they're starting their season in October. I think that gives you some time. But I don't think the Pac-12 is going to have enough.
I know. It's too bad for Oregon, man.
Season.
Too bad for Oregon.
Yeah, they're going to try to have a season. But they're going to play 6-7 games. Like, that's going to be pushing it. So I just don't see how it's going to work out. I think they're going to be left out, just to be honest. So.
It's even though this season is pretty much all fragmented. It's just different schedule types. Some conferences are playing 10, some are playing 8, some playing 5 or something like that. It's just an asterisk, and which I agree with Rudy Griffin like 2 weeks ago. It's an asterisk. I'm sorry, Matt. It's an asterisk.
Yeah, I mean, I can see. I understand your point. But I don't think anybody from the Pac-12 is going to be there anyway. I think it was going to be, either 2 SEC teams, Clemson and Ohio State. So, I mean, it's funny. I just think it's so funny. All these conferences are playing now. I'm like, what happened to all the –
And, hey, I give credit to SEC, man. Give credit to SEC. They said September 26th. They stuck to the date, and they're going to happen. It's going to happen. Great decision.
Yeah.
Greg Sankey.
They didn't fall, and I just think they just really had them. They were just credit to Greg Sankey, like you said. He had his medical team. He had his advisors. He was in contact with the NFL, which I think is just blows my mind.
I didn't know that.
The NFL was calling. Yeah, the NFL. He was talking with the NFL a lot. I think he contacted them last week. He was just really getting a lot of advice on how to make things work. And I just think he just trusted his medical advice. He was slow and methodical, where I feel like the Big Ten was trying to, be ahead of the curve and be out in front of everything. And I think it just kind of hurt them in the end, even though they're trying to play football now. I just think it just hurt their kind of brand from a leadership perspective or administration perspective, in my opinion. So, credit to Greg Sankey and the SEC. I think he did it the right way.
The
SEC is second to none.
Yeah, absolutely. SEC, I like them as a conference, their competition, but also their administration, their brand, the SEC championship games, things like that. Yes, it's just a great brand of football. Not just like the talent, but also the brand and the leadership. This is the first time I hear anything about the leadership. I didn't know there was a Greg Sankey out there. There is, and he's definitely proven it. And hopefully, NFL commissioner. I don't know. I'm talking too much.
No, I don't think the SEC is going to let him get away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways,
they're not going to let him get away.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, I agree. They'll probably give him a big, huge pay raise soon. Anyways, that is our SEC preview. Now let's go into SEC Week 1 predictions. Are you ready, Matt?
I am ready.
Let's go for the first game at noon, Kentucky at Auburn.
Whew. I'm going to say Auburn's going to win, but I don't be surprised if Kentucky wins in the upset.
I've heard that, but only from Alabama fans. Florida at Ole Miss.
Wow, this is my second game that's possibly could be an upset.
Me too.
But I just think Florida at the end is going to win the game.
Yeah, if Florida wants to be the best, they got to beat Ole Miss. Mississippi State at LSU.
Whew, I got LSU winning in a close one.
Let's see if Matt has any upsets in this predictions. Georgia at Arkansas.
I got Georgia winning.
And I want to actually make a reiteration here. Upsets, typically, well, they could happen week 1, but a lot of these teams, can mess this one up. Anyways, Bama at Missouri.
I got Bama winning.
Give us a score on that one.
Score on that one. I know the spread is 26 points.
Oh, crap.
I think they might cover it late, but it might, you never know how it's going to go. So I'll go score 38-10 Bama.
What do you want to see for this Alabama team this weekend? Do you want to see the offense or defense? Which part do you really have reassurance towards you? Is okay, I'm feeling confident for Alabama this season.
Just defense being dominant and stopping playing full quarters, and the offense has been effective. Converting on third down, not turning the ball over, having effective drives, and scoring points when needed be. So. And utilizing the playmakers. So that's kind of what I want to see.
There you have it. Tennessee at South Carolina Gamecocks.
Oh, man. This is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a close 3-point spread. I think Tennessee has the nod. Oh, my gosh. But since they're playing at South Carolina, I might have to go with South Carolina on this year.
South Carolina. I put Tennessee. I'm going to put South Carolina. That's your upset of the week.
Possibly. Let me go with Tennessee. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I give you grace.
I'm
gonna give you grace.
I'm not gonna overthink. I'm not gonna overthink it. I'm gonna go with Tennessee in a close one.
You gotta go with your head, not your heart.
Yeah.
Vandy at Texas A&M.
Texas A&M in a big one.
This is interesting, guys. I want to keep you guys in mind here. This is all. SEC teams are only playing SEC teams. This is going to be bizarre. This is a real season. Crazy. One guy put it as the NFL. Every week is pretty hard, pretty difficult.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the NFC West. With Seattle and
times Arizona, San Francisco.
Yeah, well, it used to be San Francisco, but they're kind of handicapped right now.
Yeah,
so.
I know. The turf, messed them up, and they got to play again against the Giants this weekend.
Yeah, I'm like, they need to. The NFL is probably going to investigate that turf up there. I'm quite sure.
For sure. Okay, NBA tonight. Celtics and Miami. No, sorry. The Lakers and the Nuggets. Lakers are up 2-1. Nuggets had the last win. Who do you got?
I think the Lakers are going to win, but I wouldn't be shocked if Denver wins this game. But I think the Lakers are going to regroup and win this game tonight.
I'm pulling for the Nuggets, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I like underdogs. I wouldn't be surprised if they. I mean, if you look at it quietly, the Nuggets should easily be up 2-1. If Anthony Davis didn't make that amazing shot, the Nuggets had a chance to win that game, so they could easily be up 2-1. So, I mean, I think you're kind of right in your prediction with the Nuggets tonight.
I hope. I'm a Murray fan and a Jokic fan, so we'll see how it goes. I want to be a little bit more competitive. I'm glad the Heat won last night. I thought the return of the Boston player that just came. Yes, when he came back, I thought that would change the whole dynamic. Not as bad as I thought. So, my neighbor calls this the garbage game. The Dolphins at the Jaguars.
I'm going with the Jaguars. Gardner Minshew. I think they're going to be prepared. They're going to be pretty good. They're actually playing better than I thought. I thought Jacksonville was, trying to tank for Trevor Lawrence and all that stuff, and they lose all these players, and they're still competitive in that South Division. So it's pretty interesting.
And they have no DJ Shark. Will that change your mind?
No.
Okay. He's
No.
out injured. A lot of injuries last weekend, of course, that me and Matt and I were talking about, especially in the San Francisco versus the Jets game. Nick Bosa got injured. Even the quarterback Garoppolo and, of course, Barkley got injured. So, yes, there needs to be an investigation because I heard week 1 the turf was great. Players like, wow, it was the best turf ever. And then week 2, all of a sudden was called many players were saying like the field was sticky. And you saw a couple injuries.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL is investigating. But I think the most bizarre story I've heard of the NFL is Tyrod Taylor, team doctor, actually puncturing his lung trying to administer painkiller medicine. Like, that isn't bizarre.
That's a very bizarre. I don't know if he was a Justin Herbert fan though.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. Probably was by design because Herbert looks freaking amazing in his play against Patrick Mahomes.
Even though they lost, but they look pretty good. I mean, he looked pretty good.
He looked very good, very confident. I was actually surprised how well he played. Yeah, he looked very good. So
he's tall, very tall.
Miami.
He's like 6'4", 6'6", and he can run.
Yeah.
So
putting pressure on Tua in Miami. So
no,
everybody wants to see
no,
Tua.
man, I don't want that pressure. I don't care. Oh, breaking news: Pac-12 starts in November.
Okay, so
that's not enough time, Matt.
That's not enough time.
That's not enough time.
Unless they play 5 games, they're not going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they're not. What, like November 1st? No, that's just. I mean.
They're screwed. I hate to say it.
Yeah, like what? I mean, what if Oregon goes undefeated? They're not going to put in a 4th seed.
No, not with everybody else playing at least 8 games.
And yeah, so the college football playoff committee is going to have an interesting year. Maybe will be an opportunity for teams like UCF that could potentially challenge that 4th seed.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. UCF team like Memphis, it's going to be pretty interesting. So I think they're focused on those guys.
But it's funny because there's a lot of leagues and also in sports they're experimenting some new stuff. Would you be open to a 16 playoff or 18 playoff this year?
I think if any year it should be an expanded playoff, I think this is the year. Definitely go to either 18. Or 16, I think that would be pretty interesting because you're going to have really 2 competitive SEC teams, I believe, in Florida and Alabama. So I just don't see how you kick one of them out of the playoff. I just think, either Clemson's going to come out the ACC and Ohio State come out the Big Ten. So it'll be good to have an expanded playoff this year, put a UCF, put the second SEC team in there. So you got your 6 teams right there. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Compromise it. Hey, if you put in a USF team, you should put UCF. I say USF. That's South Florida. They're not going to make it. UCF. Give us a second SEC team. I like that. I'll take it. Anyways, SEC begins this weekend, of course, at 12 p.m. With the first game of Kentucky versus Auburn. That's a good start. It'll be on CBS. And, of course, Alabama plays that night. So Justin Riley, who's listening to this show, is probably going to live tweet it, I hope. I mean, as long as it's cable or we'll talk about that. We'll figure out a way to live tweet it. Matt Caddell, what is the best way to reach you online during the Alabama versus Missouri game?
Facebook. I'll probably post them all throughout the game. All SEC Saturday, especially some upsets happen. Wink, wink at Jordan Hare. I will be all over Facebook.
And someone asked, who will be the offensive MVP for Alabama this weekend?
I'm going with Najee Harris. I just think Alabama's going to have a vanilla, game plan. Obviously, they probably want to show too much, and I think offensive line's going to dominate. They just probably hand it to Najee, get him in the end zone a couple times, and just get out there with a victory. Focus on Texas A&M.
That's a safe pick. I will choose Najee Harris as well. You can reach us at the Sportscast1 on Twitter. Matt, when will your Twitter account be? Available. This weekend would be perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna do it tonight. I keep forgetting. Obviously, I get glued. But I'm gonna work on it. As soon as I get out the phone, I will do it.
Do
Right
it,
now,
Matt, because I'm telling you, you'll probably get like 10,000 followers overnight.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm gonna do it. Shortly, trust me.
And
even my wife's like, you need to start your Twitter. So I
there you
do
go. Your wife is listening to the show. If it's not Matt Caddell, you can put Matt Caddell 1 if that's not available.
Yeah, I'll do that. Matt Caddell 1 or Matt Caddell 1, one of the two.
Exactly. Anyways, you can reach us at the Sportscast1 on Twitter or at thesportscast.net. You'll see the latest and greatest in sports articles. And, of course, we have launched a 24/7 online digital radio station. If you want to listen to the Sportscast in a radio format, you can go to the Sportscast1, or you can download the football radio app for Alabama on the iOS App Store, and it's on Radio 3. So if you want to listen to it today, hear conversation from Jared Johnson or from Justin Riley or even Matt Caddell, you could go on to the radio style of the Sportscast. We're still working on some kinks, but it's working right now, and we'll definitely have more shows, more content in the future. And, of course, this fall is pounded with sports. I'm glad NFL is doing great. So far, 0 cases from the COVID, and hopefully will be the same for the ACC because they should, because they're being consulted by the NFL and things like that. Yes. And, of course, we're still working on the game day show, guys. We're working now on everything, the hosts and the kinks and everything, but I think Matt will be involved eventually, so we'll let you know.
Awesome, man. Excited. Thanks for having me on, man. Glad to be on the show.
Matt, roll tide.
Roll tide, man. RTR.